Good morning. We are continuing the lesson CWSN, in which we are studying about the children with special need. The chapter Physical Education and Sports for Differently Able. So, we have discussed in previous video that about disability. So, today we are discussing about disorders. So, type of disorders we will discuss today. That disability and disorders we have discussed. The disorders are when any functional, we can say that any function of the body is not working efficiently or effectively, that is disorder. Any organ system of the body is not working effectively or efficiently is a disorder. So there are the 5 disorders we will discuss in detail: attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD; sensory processing disorder, that's SPD; autism spectrum disorder, that's ASD; oppositional defiant disorder, ODD; and obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. So one by one we will discuss all these. First is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. As the name of this disorder, attention deficit, means deficiency of attention. The person is lacking the attention, or this is the problem of attention, and hyperactivity. So the ADHD can be defined as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is a group of behavioral symptoms that include paying attention, behavioral symptoms that include paying attention, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. So, in this problem, the person remains hyperactive. Further, we will discuss then. And they have the problem of attention. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. The nature of this disorder is related to behavioral change. Behavioral changes or disorder. About 10% of school going kids suffer from ADHD. Boys are more susceptible to this disorder than girls. The common symptom of this disorder are hyperactivity, trouble focusing on a task, and very short span of attention. So, what is main thing? Mainly school going children suffer with this disorder, especially this is more susceptible to the boys than girls. The common symptoms of the disorder: the person remains hyperactive and has trouble of focusing on any task and has very short span of attention. Very short period of time he can be attentive on anything, and immediately the attention remains no more. The type of ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity, are inattention. Inattention, in this the person wanders off tasks. He or she does not want to involve in any activity because of the problem of attention. He or she cannot maintain his or her attention on any task. Lack of persistence is disorganized, has difficulty in sustaining focus. So inattention means that is problem of paying attention towards the task or work. Lack of persistence, person is cannot continue the activity. Disorganized, brain mental faculties are not organized properly. The person has difficulties of sustaining the focus. He cannot focus on one thing. Variety of thoughts arises in mind which disturb the person. That is the reason the person cannot maintain his or her attention. Hyperactivity, it means a person seems to move about constantly. The person is highly movable or excessive movement. And in adults, it may be extreme restlessness. The person cannot be remain on one place. The person cannot sit for a while properly. There is extreme movements of the body, excessive movements are there. The person remains hyperactive all the time. Impulsivity, it means a person excessively interrupt others or make important decisions without considering the long term consequences. Impulsivity means the person is interruptive behavior. He or she always interrupt others and takes decision without thinking about it. Whatever he or she want to do, they decide it quickly without knowing about the effect of the activity. Impulsivity means quick reactive activity. The person react quickly. This can be managed. These are three type of the ADHD: inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. This can be managed by counseling, lifestyle changes, and medication. The symptoms we can see here, symptoms of ADHD that already we understood now: inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. But the symptoms are ADHD symptoms are present over a longer period of time. The ADHD disorder affects a child's academic performance as well as a social behavior. Because you know, academic performance we need lot of attention towards study to understand topics. So ADHD are present over a longer period of time. The ADHD disorder affects the child's academic performance as well as social behavior. Social behavior is highly affected by the person's impulsivity and the hyperactivity. It is clear? The causes of ADHD are attention deficit hyperactivity disorders causes, genes and heredity. It may be genetic. Due to heredity, this problem may be there with the person. Brain injury and epilepsy in children. Sometime brain injury is there. Due to brain injury, the because this is the psychological disorder, totally psychological disorder, so then brain injury may be major cause. And epilepsy is the disease in children that can also be a cause for this ADHD. Environmental cause, prenatal exposure to smoke, like before the birth of the child or at the time of the birth of the child, the environmental conditions, the especially the poisonous smokes, or the parents are habitual of smoking, so the smoke can exposure to smoke can also lead the ADHD. Brain injury and epilepsy in children, environmental cause, prenatal exposure to the smoke. So, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. It is clear now. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So, these are certain pictures. The child is in trouble because he or she is unable to pay attention, is hyperactive and highly impulsivity. ADHD is clear. We are coming to the another disorder, that is sensory processing disorder, SPD. Sensory processing disorder, SPD, originally called sensory integration dysfunction. It is originally the name of this disorder was sensory integration dysfunction, but this is now known as sensory processing disorder, SPD. SPD is a complex disorder of the brain. Just pay attention here. It is a complex disorder of brain that affects developing children and adults. Who are more prone to this? Who are more susceptible to this disorder? Children, developing children, growing children, and adults. Heredity may be one of the cause of this disorder. Symptoms. What happens in sensory processing disorder? Sensory processing disorder, like the name we can understand by the name of this disorder, the senses are not being processed properly. The senses, brain receive this senses and convert it into the messages, then we feel it. The sensory nerves, they work, how they work? They give message to the brain, and brain receive the message and convert, brain receive the signals and convert into the message, and then that message we feel. So that is senses. We have sense organs are there, that we have discussed in previous lesson also. Skin, nose, eyes, ear, and skin, nose, eyes, ear, and tongue. When we receive these nerves, the neurons receive message, any uh, kind of, in the form of the chemical you know message that is sent through the impulses to the brain, and brain convert into the message, then we feel it. If it is taste, if it is smell, or we hear, we vision, we see, everything. But this process is when not in a proper way, that is the sensory processing disorder. Means processing of the senses is not proper. So symptoms of SPD may affect one sense, like hearing, touch, or taste. Any one sense can be affected. Children become unresponsive to anything around them because the senses makes us alert. So when the child is suffering with SPD, so definitely he is unresponsible and unresponsive towards the things, the surrounding things. So children become unresponsive responsive to anything around them. Then we will see some more information of SPD I am giving you. SPD, sensory processing disorder, this is a condition in which the brain has trouble in receiving and responding to information. What is an SPD? In this disorder, the brain has trouble in receiving and responding to information that comes in through the senses or the nerves. The SPD is related to mental nature. Definitely. They are sensory input are not organized by the brain in an appropriate manner. Either there is the problem of the brain is not receiving this information properly, or maybe the brain is receiving the information and unable to respond it properly because brain is unable to organize them in appropriate manner. So this may cause the SPD, because totally the SPD now we understand sensory processing disorder in which the brain has trouble in receiving and responding the information that comes in the brain through the senses or the nerves from different parts of the body, from the different sense organs. The common symptoms of the sensory processing disorder we will see here. The common symptoms are showing heightened reactivity to sound, touch, or movement. Heightened reactivity means the person is highly reactive because senses comes late. They are the brain is responding late or the brain is receiving late. So then the person is surprised about the information, under reactive in certain situations, sometimes highly reactive, sometimes under reactive. Highly reactive when the person's receiving it late, little late, and he's surprised, then he react highly. Under reactive means when the person is not receiving the information and the person remain normal. He or she is not reacting towards the situation because there is no any response of the brain towards the particular information. Example I am giving you, not noticing when name is called. Sometime you are calling by the name of the individual, the person is not responding or not noticing when he is being called. lethargic, person remains lethargic, disinterested, person is not interested at all, poor motor skills, poor motor skills mean movement skills, because everything that the activity, every reaction comes from the brain. Whatever activity we are doing, the message comes from brain. So poor motor skill, lack of attention, impulsive behavior, etc. So due to the poor working of the senses, the SPD interferes with the children's normal everyday functioning, because this is the disorder which is affecting the very important function of the body, that is senses, which is required for each and every work. So SPD interferes with the children's normal everyday functioning. They also have delayed communication and social skills, definitely, because communication also, I am speaking and you are understanding, so it means that senses are working while you are listening any word. So these message goes to the brain and brain identify them and then we understand. So everything communication, they also have delayed communication and social skills. SPD also impact on a person's ability to interact with different environment. Definitely interaction will be also affected, because everything is the result of the senses and brain, how senses are receiving it and sending to the brain and how brain is responding. So SPD is, I think, clear here. Sensory processing disorder. Some pictures we can see. The person are unable to receive the message from response from the brain, or unable to collect the information to send to the brain. The senses are poor. Now causes we can discuss. The causes of SPD. First is genetic or hereditary factor, such as having a family history of autism and SPD. Autism we will discuss afterward. Autism or SPD, if they have family history, so then these persons are susceptible to the sensory processing disorder. Have been understimulated during critical period of neurological development, because this is all about the nerves and neurons of the body. So neurological development takes place in the since the baby is in the womb of the mother till the early childhood. So maybe understimulated the neurological system during the critical period when there is neurological development. So it is related to the development, neurological development. Neurological means the development of nerves and or neurons and their function. Next is have been exposed to variety of environmental toxins. The toxicity may also cause the sensory processing disorder, because toxins affect our central nervous system, brain. So have been exposed to variety of environmental toxins. So the person is exposed to variety of toxins. So that affect the brain. That's why the brain is unable to organize the information in appropriate manner. Another one, that is have food allergies. The person have food allergy. Food allergy also produce toxins in our body. Another one, having developmental delay and other neurological disorders. The growth and development is delayed in the children, and or maybe any neurological disorder is there which is behind this SPD, sensory processing disorder. So this is all about the sensory processing disorder. So we have discussed ADHD. This is very important topic, children. So the type of disorders. So understand very carefully. ADHD we have discussed, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. By the name we can relate with the disorder, and then we can remember the symptoms, the causes, and about the disorder. The same way, SPD, sensory processing disorder. Whenever we come to know about the disorder, so just go through with the name, then we can understand. So by the name it is very clear, sensory processing. Sensory means sensory organs, sensory uh, faculties of the senses, like sense organ, nerves, neurons, and brain. Because that complete nervous system, that's why this nervous system is responsible for these things, senses. So this processing of the senses is not proper. That's why the person is suffering with the sensory processing disorder, because disorder will say then this is the inefficient or poor functioning of organs and systems of the body. That is disorder, and this is converted into disability afterwards when we are ignoring these disorders. So they may be converted into the disability. So three more disorders are left, so we will discuss them in next video.